Hello YouTube, I'm Drominicus, and this is my 14th episode of Thorsday. So today on the show I'm going to be taking a look at the Hawaiian volcanic goddess known as Pele. So stay tuned, I hope you enjoy and find this most informative. Now, the name Pele actually is a name of uncertain origin for myself. I wasn't able to find very much on what her name means or where it comes from exactly, but I was able to find a few epithets of hers that she does go by. Now, those include Pele Honoamea, which means Pele of the Sacred Land. There's also Ka Wahine Aya Honua, the woman who devours the land, or the earth-eating woman. And she also does go by a fairly more respectful title, that being Tutu Pele, meaning Madam Pele. Now, this epithet is used a little more often nowadays, with people showing greater respect towards her, and etc. But yeah, there you go. As I said, the origin of her original name, Pele, I'm not certain, but there's a few epithets for you at the very least. From what I have been able to find, Pele is shown often in either one of two forms. Now, the first form is that of basically a volcano. She has lava hair and the body of a volcano, so she's essentially the living rock itself. Now, she does have a face, etc., but it's basically that she is a volcano. Now, the second form is what many gods tend to do, is they have a human form, and in her case it is the form of a very beautiful woman with very dark black hair, very dark tanned skin, and red eyes. So yes, she is often shown in one of those two forms. The humanoid form resembling the features of a volcano, the tan skin, looking more like the rock, the black hair resembling the magma and the lava, hardening and crusting over sort of that sort of black, and the red eyes, of course, being the fire. So there you go. That's typically what she's represented as in one of two forms. Now, in recent videos, many of the deities that I've looked at have not been tied to any particular location. In Pele's case, however, she's actually tied to several different locations. Now, looking at the Mythos, I had to sort of pare it down to some of the more often mentioned ones, because a lot of her stories are either conflicting or there's just a lot of information flying around, where she may have been a part of, or who did what happened here and there. It's a lot of information, and I kind of had to sift through as much as I could to find out pretty much the more occurring stuff. So the locations that she's tied to that I was able to sort of eke out from amongst the data I found was that she's quite possibly born in Tahiti, and that she moved from Tahiti over to either one of two places. Either Mauna Loa, which is regarded as the highest mountain on Earth if measured from the base in the ocean depths, or possibly the Halemaumau crater in Mount Kilauea, or Kilauea rather. So, of that information, those three locations are the ones that pop up the most. So, given that, those are the three locations I can pretty well say with a reasonable amount of confidence that she is tied to. So there you have it. When it comes down to symbols for Pele, I wasn't really able to find very much at all in regards to forms of worship, talismans, tokens, necklaces, any sort of jewelry that would represent fealty or devotion to Pele. For symbolic things surrounding her, the only thing I could really find would be the volcano. And that's pretty much an obvious one, where she is a goddess of volcanoes. So yeah, there's not really a whole lot to go on for Pele for symbols, but that's about it. As one can expect from a goddess of volcanoes, Pele does have several natural and sort of violent domains. One such domain is, of course, volcanoes. She's also a goddess of fire, lightning, of violence. It has, I've seen, like, literally it's been in there, violence, as well as dance. And that may be a little bit confusing, but she was actually, in the mythos, one of her sisters is a dancer, the hula. And yeah, it's sort of a sacred-ish thing for the Hawaiian religion. So yes, dance is one of her domains. She's actually one of only, I do believe it was 3 goddesses who is a goddess of the dance. So there you go. So yes, in addition to all the ones that you would normally expect, there's dance. So there you are. So those are the domains of Pele. Now, while I was able to find several mythos stories on Pele, several of which conflict and all that other stuff, there wasn't actually a whole lot regarding her worship. Now, that said, I did find out that, specifically about Pele, they often will talk of her in a very respectful tone. Given the fact that she is a volcano goddess, it doesn't really surprise me. Now, with that in mind, I was able to look up a few of the Hawaiian worshiping traditions. Now, a lot of the worship took place mainly as prayer. However, there were sometimes sacrifices or offerings made to their deities. Now, these took place in several different locations, which were, well, actually, there's various types of locations. First was the heiau, which were their sort of temples. There were the koa, which were shrines, and there were also wahipana, which were their sacred places, and kuahu, which were their home altars. So there were several different things that, like I said, there were offerings, sacrifices, prayers that took place at all these different locations. In addition, prayers could be offered pretty well anywhere, much like every other religion's prayers. Would be offered at various times, various locations, for various reasons. It could be for luck, for strength, for help with whatever tasks are at hand. It just, it's very much the same as every other culture in that sense, is that prayer would be offered for many, many things. But yes, they would have very specific locations for larger rituals and sacrifices, offerings, and whatnot, and as I just described. So yeah, that's pretty much the worship that would take place in regards to Pele and the various other Hawaiian deities. So the mythos of Pele are many and confusing. Trying to keep track of them all is just, wow, a task and a half here. So I did find a story involving Pele that is actually kind of a neat one. It revolves around Pele and her younger sister, Hi'iaka. Now, Hi'iaka is her favorite sister. She does have another couple of sisters there, or at least one other. But she's her favorite sister, as Pele hatched Hi'iaka from an egg that was being essentially kept warm by being in her armpit as she was traveling in a canoe across the seas to the Big Island. So, with that in mind, we'll get on with this story. So, Hi'iaka, when she grew to womanhood on the Big Island, Pele, not being on the Big Island, traveled there in spirit to watch Hi'iaka dance. Now, Hi'iaka is actually another one of the 3 goddesses of the dance. So, when Pele went in spirit form, she manifested that spirit form as a beautiful woman, and when she went there, she fell madly in love instantly with a young chief named Lohiau. And Lohiau was very much enthralled with her, but being that she was in spirit form, she could not stay on the Big Island for very long. She stayed there for a few days, but after that time was up, she had to return to her body. When she did so, she actually asked Hi'iaka a favor, and that was to go and bring that young chief to her as she was in love with him. So Hi'iaka agreed, and they made a promise to each other. Hi'iaka promised that should the young chief Lohia'u fall for her, that she would not encourage his advances because she wanted to, stay true to her sister and bring him to her. And Pele agreed that she would keep all of her steam and lava as best she could to herself and not let the flows go to a nearby grove of flowering ohiak trees, where Hi'iaka liked to dance with her friend Hopue. So the two of them made this pact, and Hi'iaka left to go get the chief. Now, this was taking a little bit of time, but unbeknownst to Pele, although it was taking some time, the reason for it was that when Hi'iaka arrived on the island, she found that the chief had died of grief after Pele had left. So, being a goddess that she was, Hi'iaka restored the chief's spirit to his body, bringing him back to life. Now, back where Pele was, this had taken a long time for her sister to go there, restore the spirit, and start heading back. It was actually 40 days. So, being that Pele is a goddess of volcano, fire, etc., she's actually given to jealousy, capriciousness, the whole works of sort of negative emotions. And she was getting suspicious after 40 days that her sister may have broken her promise. And so she let loose her lava and steam, and it just went right over that grove. And in the process, entombed Hopue to a lava grave. Now, Hi'iaka returned, and when she did so, she found her friend entombed in the lava. So she wasn't terribly happy about this. So she actually flung herself into the arms of Lohia'u, that young chief, and so in doing, broke her promise to Pele, and Pele sort of wanted to get revenge on her for that, so she let loose another roll of lava and steam and killed the chief with that burst there. And of course, Hi'iaka, being a goddess, was, unaffected by this. Now, we have a dead chief, an entombed friend, and two sisters who are basically at each other's throats at this point. Now, what then happened was that their brother, their older brother, Kanemilohai, who is sometimes seen as a brother, sometimes shown as a father, you know how myths get with relationships. He, while he was traveling along, saw the spirit of the young chief, scooped it up, and brought it back, restored it to the body, and then the chief and Hi'iaka lived happily ever after, with the exception of the fact that Hi'iaka's friend is now entombed in lava for basically eternity. But other than that, it's all right. But anyway, I wanted to share at least that one mythos, little bit of story with you there. I hope you guys enjoyed this look at Pele, the Hawaiian goddess of volcanoes. And stay tuned tomorrow for my Wordwise episode, and have a great weekend. I'm Drominicus. I'm out.